The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Leadership Podcast. It's another edition of The Big Issue. And of course, as usual, I'm your regular host, George Agba. And with me here in the studio, our very vibrant in-house analyst. We have Chibuzo Kaide and Mark Isibo.
Thank you very much.
And for the big issue of the day, it's all about the cash crunch. The issues are rising as President Muhammadu Buhari disowned the Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele and the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami. Well, there have been calls for the resignation of the CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele and the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami over the statement issued by the presidency on Monday absolving President Muhammadu Buhari of blame over the continued disobedience to the judgment of the Supreme Court, which ordered that the old Naira notes, the old currency from 1,500 to 200 Naira remains valid till December 31 this year. The Supreme Court had last week gave that judgment ordering that the Central Bank of Nigeria should recall the old note and it must remain valid till December 31. And since the judgment was delivered, the CBN governor, the AGF, who were party to the suit, kept mute until the outcry by Nigerians hit the rooftop. Buhari on Monday came out to say he does not necessarily to give directive to the CBN governor or the Attorney General of the Federation for them to obey the judgment of the highest court in the land. By that pronouncement by the presidency, President Muhammadu Buhari outrightly disowned the CBN governor and the AGF, leaving them to their fate. And now there are calls for the resignation of the duo. Most people who are calling for their head say this is the only way the president can redeem his image, because President Buhari cannot claim that there was an act of disobedience of court order. No matter what took the CBN government so long, it was just last Monday. Quickly put up the statement.
Well, that is has left for the civil government to tell Nigerians why it will take him time to honor a judgment of the highest court in the land. But if you ask me, I would just assume that because all politics from the presidency through the Administration of the Federation to the Central Bank of Nigeria. Because, for instance, if you look at the occurrence of events, from the time the president said, I do not need to give them order, that same evening, the CBN issued a circular asking the banks to accept and give out and pay out the old notes. You understand? And so, the same president that said, I do not need to give them order, was the same one that gave a directive for the CBN to release 200 Naira old 200 Naira notes, to start paying it to the banks. So if the court had given a judgment and you are now giving a different directive, and that different directive was being implemented, and you are saying that you do not really need to give another directive before implementation, I do not really know where the mess of is, because the president set a precedent by giving the first direction. Okay, the court has given this judgment. Court has said let the old notes 200 naira, 500 naira, 1,000
Before
naira
the court
run
gave that
concurrently.
judgment, the court had given an interim injunction
Interim injunction.
saying
Yes.
that.
So, and then after the court judgment, what did we do? What did we see? The president never uttered a word. And so maybe the president at the general declaration, we were looking up to the president for direction. And you saw from the time, from that particular moment, a statement from Sheikh Garuba, the presidential spokesman, from the statement that gave a direction. That, look, I do not need to teach you your job. The guys went to go do their job, and the CBN has issued a direction. So you see, if the president claims to not to be involved, I would rather say I don't know how possible it is, because these guys directly takes order from him. So what did he do? What did he do to them? They are both appointees of the president. What did he do when they did not obey the court order and his name was being peddled in public as Mr. Disobedient of court orders? You understand? So that is what the presidency need to tell us.
Thank you very much, Mark. Chibuzo, you've heard what Mark has said. And I agree with him that the whole thing appears like being politicking, because see the point he made, very valid point. The president cannot say the AGF and the CBN governor does not need to hear from him before they act. But the same president, where after the Supreme Court had given an interim injunction saying that, look, the deadline for, which was, is it February 10th, for the phasing out of the old note does not have any, should not be implemented. But the president came out the next day to give a directive via nationwide broadcast, live broadcast, that look, only 200 naira notes should be in circulation, 1,500 naira notes, against the order of the Supreme Court that date is invalid for now, pending the determination of this case. Now the Supreme Court gave this judgment. What do you expect the AG, the CBN government to have done? And now they are calling for the heads of the AGF and the CBN government. What, in your view, could you see?
Who are those calling for the head? Who are those calling for
the CSOs? Came out and said that the president can only redeem his image by sacking the CBN governor.
I thought they would have asked the National Assembly to move against the president for failing to obey court. Because I'm surprised that anybody will be surprised that we are having this kind of charade and display of too many adjectives are playing in my head. You know, so I think it's clear. This government has never taken Nigerians, seriously. They've always treated Nigerians as if they don't matter, their views don't matter, as if their feelings do not matter to them. Like Femi Falana was on, I think TBS, on the television yesterday, and he was giving a historical background of how this administration has failed consistently, willfully, to obey court orders. So it's not surprising that we are having this. And at its convenience, he has a character of throwing, those who are supposed to execute things, it will not want them to execute under the bus when the time matters. We saw that with Magun. And we saw how Magun was so sure that he was going to enjoy the protection of the presidency, and at the end of the day, he was thrown under the bus. So I'm not surprised that we are seeing this with Emefiele and the Attorney General. But I think it basically speaks to the character and nature of this administration. And by the time it is long gone, there will be someone to remember it by. Fortunately, they will not be suffering.
Oh, thank you very much, Chibuzo. Mark, we will still come back to this. Let's see. Even as we talk now, there are concerns that even this directive by the Supreme Court has still not been complied, because even these old notes we are talking about, they are not there. The banks are not dispensing old notes. They still secure in the bank and the rest of all. How could you explain this issue of non-compliance that most Nigerians are actually worried about now?
I think the issue is not about compliance. But if you look at it, I personally did an on the spot inspection to some banks in Abuja yesterday. So the issue is not about compliance. The issue that many of them will not tell you officially, many of the banks will not tell you officially, is the fact that they do not yet have old notes. They do not yet have the old notes. Then the question now is, why do they not have the old notes?
Where did the old notes go?
So the old notes have been that the ones that have been recovered by the CBN. We will not sit down here and say they have been discarded, they have not been there, this and that. Maybe give the authorities the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they have not, maybe they are still processing the whole thing of trying to get it back to the banking sector. Because the banks will now have to go and take stock, receive the old notes from the CBN before they can dispense. But right now, what I was able to find out is the fact that all the banks, almost all the banks, not nearly all of them, the ones I was able to visit, almost all the banks are ready to dispense the old notes. They are accepting the old notes now, the deposits, but they don't have it to pay out. I can tell you one manager of one the leading banks in Abuja here told me that look, we are ready to pay, but we don't have it. We have not received it from, we have not received the old notes from CBN, but neither have we received it from the old notes from our headquarters in Lagos. Then I was asking, when are you expecting this? He said he doesn't know. And it is only when they come, they will dispense. As a matter of fact, they don't even have both the old and new notes. So if we have on paper said that you can dispense and accept the old notes, how come the old notes are not in separation? You understand? I think something still needs to be done. And that thing should be done very fast. For the whole of this nation will come and for the whole of the economy will start picking up. Because for me, it was just a distortion or a distraction to the whole process. If these old notes were immediately moved to the banks, or the banks were immediately started disbursing them since the day before yesterday, when this new directive came, I'm sure by now would have had South will be relieved that okay, look, things are looking good now. But as it stands, it doesn't seem to be abating.
You see, that is, let me even quote the president. In the statement signed by Gary Bashir, he said, as for the cashless system the CBN is determined to put in place, it is a known fact that many of the country's citizens who bear the brunt, they surprisingly support the policy as they believe that the action will cut corruption, fight terrorism, build an environment of honesty, and reinforce the incorruptible leadership of the president. Now, when you look at this, you can still agree with me that even the president will be playing countering with Nigerians in a double sense because people sound like what we hear. Some people even said, even after that judgment of the Supreme Court, it's likely that that delay in compliance would have been as a result of a, a kind of tactics to delay tactics to allow this governorship election, which was postponed to Saturday, this coming Saturday, to go before they start complying with the Supreme Court judgment. And I will agree that everything about this cashless policy, this Naira redesign, cash swap, every of it, I think it is now we should begin to have. But some Nigerians are of the opinion that this will not be unconnected with the electoral process. It was perhaps due to the fact that the, 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 the president was actually working to ensure that he frustrates and disappoints the money back. No, that is to stop them from vote buying and the rest. Don't you think we should begin to look at it from this direction?
What direction?
That it is actually perhaps the election too was part of this, the idea of this CBR policy, not as if it was actually done for the economic benefit.
If that is what they
The
had,
map will tell us about.
if that is what they had in mind, like they said, because we are now beginning to see two things. We are now beginning to try to imagine their intention and place that side by side the outcome of what we what we eventually saw. Because I think in the course of one of his narratives, the CBN governor said the whole of this is for the elections. I think he did something about the elections. I'm not sure if I'm correct. The vote buying and all of that. And I think even the EFCC also echoed that sentiment. But eventually, what did we see? We saw what some independent observers and even international bodies have described as one of the most disjointed elections we've seen in recent times, marked by irregularities and all of that. So, and I think some even hinted at the fact that there was a cashless situation. Voters found it difficult, to get from point A, to point B and all of that. So I'm beginning to wonder, if you put it on a scale, was this policy what it was intended to do? Absolutely not. Because if the whole intent is to ensure, because it all boils down to, we are doing this to ensure we have a credible process in the electoral part. That aspect of it does not appear to have added any value to the quality of elections we had. If anything, it impacted it negatively. People could argue that way.
Most people are saying that it even led to voter apathy.
Exactly. So it's all. I think it's just what we are seeing is a manifestation of an elevated cluelessness in policy arrangement and implementation. And in climes, well, we are not in that climb. In certain climes, we would have seen people willingly resign, but perhaps we don't have that culture. I know, okay, somebody resigned in Lagos, but we don't have that culture. That culture has not taken root yet. But I think after now, there might be need for an inquest into what actually transpired, so that we don't set a plane for people to just do things and get away with them in Nigeria. Now, why I say this is because a lot of taxpayers' money have gone into this process. A lot of taxpayers' money. A lot of people have suffered. People have died in this process. So much has happened that ought not to have happened. So I think that after all of this display of gross cluelessness, an inquest has to be made. An objective inquiry has to be made from the conceptualizing process to the implementation process of all of this, so that we can really put our fingers on where the whole thing got wrong, and to ensure that people get justice for the way this government has actually treated them. So I think after now, maybe when all of this is settled, an inquest has to be looked into this, and to set a precedent against other people just waking up and taking Nigerians for a ride.
I agree with you, Chibuzo. But we to Mark, come on. In as much as we will not really allow the president to go scot-free in this broadcast, claiming that he was not necessary, because the point you made is a very valid one. You're the same you came after Supreme Court saying, wait, that date, forget that date for implementation. Let's settle this matter first. Buhari came and said, no, 200 naira should be thing that should be in circulation. All 200 naira. Other ones should remain the way. Against the Supreme Court order of interim injunction that status quo should be maintained. The own naira note should be in circulation until the determination of the case. He didn't do that, only for him now to come and start telling CPI government and the AGF that why were they waiting for him to give them directive? As if they had gone to do their own bidding without hearing from him, it shouldn't have even amounted to disobeying his own order that it should only be 200 naira. I think the president there failed in that aspect, because we have actually seen that he too was actually trying to dodge the bullets and the stone being thrown by angry Nigerians. But CBN governor too, there's no way you go put your hand in fire without expecting that the fire will touch you. What took this will say into politics in the first place? Because it was even as a result of his delving into politics that he wanted to contest the presidency, that people are beginning to suspect him of being political, up to the extent of the president-elect, who was then the presidential candidate of the APC, saying that everything that was just done by Emefiele was to target him and was targeted at him. That means, in the real sense of the term, this idea of redesign, Naira redesign, the cashless policy, was not really intended to really improve the economy. That is what most Nigerians are saying now. Please, can you tell us? I know very well that you can tell us that on the other hand.
Well, the issue is that I don't follow politicians. I follow business people and bankers. So I will tell you what I think.
And I can tell you that those guys are even could be more
Political than even
political
you.
than the
You
politician.
think that you are just purely.
Well, I don't know what you are saying. But I want to say that the policy is a good one. That is what is not in dispute. Everybody agree, just like Joe Garba mentioned. It's just that I don't want to say that the senior colleague was talking from both sides of the mouth. Because if you say that you should go ahead to do this, on the other hand, you are refused to give a further direction, and you waited until you say, am I the one to give you direction? After throwing them, you are highlighting the importance of this policy, telling us why this policy should be implemented. Does it then mean that you are discouraging or encouraging the implementation of the policy? The policy itself is not bad. The implementation process was bad. Do you understand? But as for whether because the CBN governor was rumored to be contesting for the president or not, this and that. But of course, since that issue happened, whatever decision the CBN takes, political meanings are read to it. So whether the policy was now good or not is never seen in that light anymore. It is now seen as if the CBN was doing that, like as it said,
Just for based on
yes,
political vendetta.
exactly.
To get back at
You understand? But the question is, was the policy good enough? The policy was very good enough. If you ask me, the problem was the implementation of that policy, with special regards to the CBN's oversight function on the banks, because the banks sabotaged the implementation of that policy. Because even the CBN governor acknowledged when he went to the National Assembly. So if the banks have refused to do what you have given them order to do, a directive you have given them, they are doing otherwise. You are their supervisor, you carry out oversight function of them. What did you do? Did you revoke the license of any bank? Or in the list, did you suspend any MD of those banks that were even EFCC, ICPC, and the rest of them said they were found wanting in one way or the other? What happened? So they were treated with levity. They were treated with kind of familiarity. And these guys treated Nigerians with disdain, with scorn, as if we never mattered. And the thing punished, it was like a punishment served on Nigeria, as if Nigerians have committed the biggest offense. So from the presidency through the CBN down the line, the policy implementation was poor. That is what major thing, whether it is read politically or business-wise, the implementation of that policy was a major problem. And if the implementation has been done well, I am very sure that it would have. In fact, my pain now is that the policy will not be scuttled. And once it is scuttled, the aim will be defeated. So now with this disruption now, imagine for the whole year, that policy will not come into effect. But we have an economy. We have an economy to build. And that is a policy that has the potential, the capacity to help us right so many wrongs in our payment system, in our economy, across even in the political lines.
But sorry, let me contribute. Just I'm not really in the process. You say this is policy that would have worked, but recent, even the cashless policy we are talking about, with the difficulties experienced by Nigerians in this e-payment, where sometimes you see money sent to you, you don't see it in your account. So there have been various complaints.
Well, that is you may point to that, but that is
Why will we
that
survive
cannot
the cashless economy when the e-payment, the e-transactions are not?
no, that cannot be wholly blamed on the CBN. The CBN does not provide infrastructure, electronic infrastructure like the fintechs. You understand now? What I know is that we need to invest more on the internet infrastructure. If we don't have a strong internet base, we cannot, because it was a surge. The pressure was too much. And so there's no way, just like a car that has been carrying like maybe a light load, and all of a sudden, because you want to meet that time, you come to overload it. So it will normally crash. You understand? And don't forget that this Japa syndrome is also affecting the banks. So we hear that most of the IT units have been deserted. So all of those things were because the banks were overwhelmed. So if we had this in place for a long time and we had taken time to implement it instead of this 3 months rush, I'm sure it would have worked out and it would have been for the good of the economy.
Well, it was spoken very well, and of course, that is even where the problem lies. As a result of the cashless economy, the poor infrastructure in the country has really shown in the very poor performance of the e-payment system, which at the end of the day is a clear indication that we would have actually been in very hot soup if this cashless economy would have allowed to continue. Then the idea of transaction through the internet would have been very difficult because Nigeria is not ripe yet for just e-payment, e-transactions without raw cash. Well, just like Chibuzo said, I think it is high time Nigerians should be made to pay for whatever sins they commit and to allow them go scot-free. That is even the reason why a chieftain of the All Progressive Congress, John Mayaki, is calling on the incoming president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to ensure that if the current administration of President Muhammadu Buhari does not remove the Attorney General of the Federation and the CBN governor, he should do that immediately as he comes into the office without delay. But I think another thing, just like Chibuzo said, is that it shouldn't even end there. The whole process of this cashless policy, Naira redesign, should be thoroughly probed so that Nigerians will always have that sense of accountability, so that nobody will feel that you come up and do anything and then go scot-free with it after putting Nigerians in the kind of very difficult situation they found themselves at the moment. Well, that is the much we can take for today's edition of The Big Issue. Thank you for keeping tab with us out there. And of course, I will really thank our in-house analysts for addressing the big issue. Join us same time tomorrow for another edition of this program. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.